for joining. I'm very humble and very grateful for this really wonderful attendance here this morning. Media, you play an extremely crucial role for any nation's development, progress, and current issues. So therefore, I want to really appreciate not only for today joining, but continuously covering on the work of the United Nations system and issues which are important to society and where the UN system is always engaged and working together. It's been 5 years, as Chirag said, for me here. On the 13th next month, it will be exactly 5 years. I've had great time in Zimbabwe, working with all of you, other partners, and engaging across many issues which are really crucial for Zimbabwe on the development front, on the issue of humanitarian challenges, and many other governance or democratic issues, human rights issues, etc. You remember almost 5 years ago when we began, I began in this country, we developed this framework of cooperation between the UN system and the government of Zimbabwe, that is Zimbabwe United Nations Development Assistance Framework. We signed a cooperation agreement with the Chief Secretary, myself, and many of my colleagues, as well as the cross-section of ministries, and we set 6 areas of priority for UN work. Since then, in the 6th area we have been working on, that is poverty reduction, food and nutrition security, gender, HIV, AIDS, social services, and governance issues. We have, with very strong support from development partner, mobilized yearly over $400 million. It's been very humbling, that excellent cooperation with development partner, as well as the government, to achieve many goals. Sadly, in the last 5 years also, Zimbabwe faced 3 years of drought, terrible climate change situation, and we first time in 17 we issued a humanitarian response plan. We mobilized support for drought, flooding, and made various humanitarian needs. Again, this year, since March, we have been producing appeal. We had a first drought appeal in March, and then for Cyclone Ida, and then the latest on the 6th of August, the revised humanitarian appeal. Not going into the past, but this current concern is a bit worrying, given the challenge in terms of shortage of local production, and as well as huge vulnerability and combination of other factors, including economic transformation, which is resulting in price rise and etc. So therefore, preserving the most vulnerable and supporting those who really need help in rural areas and urban areas, and also engaging with government in terms of its vision for 2030, the work on TSP, the work on development plan, the work on the sustainable development goals, continued promotion of democratic values, human rights. These are all United Nations priority, which is Zimbabwe's priority, and we're working across ministries, across leadership, across all stakeholders. Everyone has a role to play. We, as the United Nations system, multilateral organization, our modality of working is with the government. But then we also work with other partners to understand their views, to share ideas, and also bring all perspective in ground in terms of our programming intervention and in looking at priorities and really zero in on our attention and focus to see how do we help Zimbabwean people, how do we help transform their life, how do we address the concern related to various suffering or challenges. For example, if you remember during the cyclone Idai, UN deployed helicopters, the World Food Program leading that from Mutare, ferrying food, medicine and others. The World Health Organization together with UNICEF and others jumped in to address cholera vaccine. 400,000 people were vaccinated within a 1 week period together with the Ministry of Health, communities and health worker. The food is being supported to already various areas needing help. Children in school get books. We also have a program extensively supporting HIV and AIDS. Almost 1.1 million receive antiviral drugs. So we also work in strengthening various areas of capacity. So at the end of the day, the program remains sustainable and supporting to change policies and Zimbabwe can sustain on its own. The approach of engaging globally, the approach of attracting investors into the country, changes in rules and regulations or policies are the right steps going forward, because the aid alone is never a solution, and indeed we need to work on attracting private sectors so there is more jobs and etc. And at the same time, the effort is being made in terms of engaging with the IFIs, the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, African Development Bank, are extremely important steps to build confidence, to get more funding and investment into the country. What Zimbabwe needs at this moment is to attract investors, needs more resources, so the whole agriculture sector can be transformed. There is a huge need of investment in the agriculture sector. There is also need in the other infrastructure areas, mobilization of mineral resources, and etc. Zimbabwe is indeed very much blessed with so much resources. Top of it is the human resources. It invested a lot of money and efforts in human capital in the past. I think that was fantastic steps, and that must continue going forward. Sadly, with the rise in poverty and some of the challenges, as you see in the latest GIMBAC report, decrease in attendance or more girls number being reduced in secondary school and other, these are worrying signs. Also, if you look at the investment in the region and Zimbabwe, the region is getting a huge amount of attraction. So therefore, working towards changing that is important. The concern, there are still some concern on HIV issues. For example, youth are being infected and more girls are being infected. We really need to work to transform that, to prevent it going forward. So preserving that human capital is really fundamental. Strengthening the various institutions so they deliver in the right way, in an accountable way to the public is really important. I think the steps being taken in terms of corruption issues, we really applaud that. In this very room, I hosted a meeting with the chairman of the Anti-Corruption Commission together with the various development partners. We're very pleased to hear the bold step going forward in terms of challenging corruption. Corruption is a threat to development. It takes away people's money and public resources for many things, and therefore really an important element to curb it. The leadership's drive in anti-corruption is applauded. So I think overall I'm very pleased the direction the country is going in terms of its engagement, its steps towards long-term development with the TSP, and then the development, subsequent development plan, and continuous effort to engage with the international communities. And I think the energy being put by the leadership is commendable. What is important also is there has been a lot of neglect in the past many years, and to transform immediately that into a complete change of situation is not possible. We need to have a bit of a patience. It needs time to revise these things going forward, and therefore taking all these plan into action and commitment by everyone is really crucial. So I want to really wish Zimbabwe and all Zimbabwean a wonderful future. I'm very humble to have the opportunity to serve in Zimbabwe, and I want to see Zimbabwe feeding Africa and beyond. Zimbabwe helping other countries needing help to support. So it's all possible. And I want to also tell you that, over 30 years back, I started my career in Botswana. And I used to visit Zimbabwe then, and I've seen what's possible. And therefore, and the transformation is absolutely doable and possible. And therefore, the future is really bright for Zimbabwe. We just need to all work on and support, and the UN system is continuously committed to partner and work with Zimbabwean people for its betterment. So thank you very much for this opportunity to exchange a little bit in terms of my perspective. And as we go forward, obviously the immediate action for us is in terms of saving lives from the humanitarian point of view, and meeting the need of the most vulnerable people while transforming the economy. Otherwise, people's suffering will be too much, and so we must protect that the most vulnerable people, and the social sector, the health, the education, the need of the most vulnerable, and etc. And a lot of action is necessary. Trust building is necessary. Engagement with all the stakeholders as Zimbabwean in transforming Zimbabwe is essential. The peace is fundamental for the progress. The steps being taken in terms of erasing the old wound and healing are a very important milestone on the steps. So I can only wish great success in all these efforts, and I'm very humble as a part of the UN system to be able to work here in Zimbabwe with my colleagues. We have 800 national staff and about 150 international colleagues. So I want to salute all my colleagues and my team for their commitment on Zimbabwe and for the great work. And I want to thank you all for all your support, and I also to thank government, civil society, and all other stakeholders for good friendship and partnership and cooperation. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. These are all pertinent questions. Indeed, corruption can be a huge challenge, and I would say globally, if you look at the corruption index, anti-corruption, the corruption index, global corruption index. In fact, it's concerning what's here in Zimbabwe, like many other countries as well. But I think the important thing to stress here is the commitment and action to move towards that. It's a bit early stage to say that are we happy, are we not happy, and etc. But there is a clear intention, you can see it. And so the time will tell in terms of what action is being taken to eradicate or to challenge the corrupt practices. But what I gather from the steps being taken by the leadership of the Anti-Corruption Commission, I think she is extremely committed and very bold in taking action. But what is really crucial is she needs political support. She needs support from all society, everyone need to encourage that. If you remember some time back, Auditor General produced a report and she brought a lot of challenging concern about corruption and etc. And they were almost trying to push her out. But she was reinstated, and I think she's being commended for her action and step. So the society needs few strong leaders to transform the country and these type of steps. So I want to only wish her well, and I hope the whole leadership and everyone supports her on her drive. I can see there would be a huge progress going forward. That's my take. The point on social services and policy, poverty, I think these are extremely important points, and this is very dear to our heart, I must say. The UN system is always empathetic and looking into how to protect the most vulnerable and poor. My point here is, Zimbabwe has been spending more than it earned and the resource it had. So therefore, it had to take a back seat in terms of cutting expenses and looking at the unnecessary and bring a right policy. But you are absolutely right, and if you remember the point I stressed, while transforming the economy, we must protect the poor. We must protect the vulnerable. We must not cut down on investment in the most crucial sectors such as education, health, and the vulnerable. And the investment must move more towards productive sector. So the growth can help to bring the resources for the country. I think I'm hoping maybe some of these action being taken are more transitory, and these hardship and etc. are transitory, and there would be continuous walk the talk, which is really fundamental going forward, and it will help. It will help to automatically bring the economy towards progressive, productive, and contributing to poverty reduction, and there will be more resources for social services, etc. And so therefore, some of these policies being proposed to attract more investments are crucial, and there is really need to, for example, this issue of ease of doing business and etc. The rule of law, aspects. People are watching these aspects. Zimbabwe can be a huge opportunity for investor if the right environments are there. And I believe the effort is to move towards creating that right environment. I will not go as far as categorically, saying this policy is in this side or that side. We need to watch and continuously encourage in terms of not compromising investment in social sector. I mean, what I was told, the revised budget, for example, which came out, had a huge additional area of investment into the social sector, like health and education, and that must be there. Now, going to the HIV and AIDS area, I think the gain Zimbabwe has made on the HIV/AIDS issue is eliminating this stigma and the whole issue of treatment and use of appropriate prevention measures, be it condoms and abstaining, one partner, and etc. It's important to invest in that prevention measures, in my view. There should be a huge effort to educate younger generation. Mind it, a lot of young generation may not be aware of some of the things, and then are misguided and get into this new infection. And also, sometimes when you have a poverty and hunger and economic challenges, some people are forced to take steps which can put them into huge risk in new infections. So protecting them and safeguarding them and also informing them to be aware is really important. I think this should be, and UN, we are looking into all these important steps to work with government, including on the issue of the right type of policies, and also on corruption, for example. We have offered our support to see how we can, and I have heard various development partners are ready to support Zimbabwe's effort on those. So thank you very much. Let's take a second round. UN is always for peace, democratic values, and non-violence. And I think the Constitution provides the space for people to participate in a peaceful means of demonstration and all other things. Indeed, some of the challenges, as you rightly say, can deter the steps going forward. And I would say all peaceful means of demonstration or non-violence element should not be threatened through violence means, and that can only add a negative image on Zimbabwe. Frankly, Zimbabwean are very peaceful people, and that's what I have seen, and therefore tolerant people, and going to people evening and mask and beating, that's absolutely intolerable. That should not be the right thing to do. I mean, if there are issues, there should be a dialogue, there should be a conversation, and it's time in the new Zimbabwe to build trust and to have a dialogue and have a conversation. Everybody should feel free to share their perspective and views, and work in nation building in that broader sense. The point about you raised, my major highlights. I think, as I said in my broader summary, if you heard, in the last 5 years, I would say I've stressed the UN focus in building the best of relation with all the partners, donors, government, and all the stakeholders, and to stress that UN is there to support Zimbabwe and build that element of trust as a friend of Zimbabwean people. The second is a time of need, various need. We have jumped in to join in and partner to support Zimbabwean government, Zimbabwean citizen, be it to respond to the cyclone, to drought, and in its development effort to transform the country. We have, the figure speaks to itself. We have worked very hard on those. Third, we have also joined in cross-section of areas, not only looking at immediate need, but also long-term to contribute to Zimbabwe's democratic values, promotion of human rights. For example, the whole biometric system during the election process. We got engaged with all the stakeholders to introduce that element and support Zimbabwe with that. Now in the context of peace work with the Peace Commission, we have been partnering behind the scene, as our role is as a partner and supporting the government and commissions and institutions for them to do and create a vision, be it on Human Rights Commission. We have been supporting Human Rights Commission, we have been supporting Gender Commission, we have been supporting Peace Commission, and also in the other areas of service delivery, be it on HIV and AIDS, be it on education, food security, health. We have been joining all across in a very, very effective manner to respond to the urgent need. What I wish could have happened, probably now it's, I could see the movement towards it is, but also we need to be patient because 5 years is not a long time in the context of a country to see a change. Maybe in us as an individual we see it a long time, but there are steps and movement. So therefore, I'm very happy to see these transformative steps going forward. Now the question about trust and long-term development and engagement, I would say the various pronouncement in policies and plan and commitment are excellent. The government, the new dispensation, the new government, Second Republic has taken is really, really positive. And also some of the action it's taking is very positive. But I would say it should continue to move on taking positive steps and action, but completely avoid situation like what you heard from some other colleagues, which gives a very bad impression on Zimbabwe, beating people, and that type of violation is I think should not happen, and that's an element of continued trust building. The second thing is in the context of economic transformation and etc. I would say 2008 and 9, I wasn't there, but many of you would recollect the suffering people went through in terms of pension were all erased, their saving were all taken out overnight. So that element of trust on people, on monetary aspect is fundamental. And then the institution would be more trusted. I mean, why people don't trust the bank and don't go through it if they don't have to, is because they have lost the trust. Gaining trust takes more time. There should be many steps and sign for continuous trust building with action. I mean, action speaks louder than words. So I would say that's what is really important. The last point about Zimbabwe and its partnership with various nations and etc. It's for Zimbabwe to decide who can be a best trading partner or who can be a best cooperating partner, and also to look at its own terms and reinforce that. If you have a good institutions, legal system, it automatically takes care of that. So therefore, investing on institutions is really important, and also mechanisms such as anti-corruption and others, ease of doing business will reduce unnecessary element of misunderstanding. But I would say, all nations, as I have seen, have been a good friend of Zimbabwe in many fronts. China has been investing in many areas here. The hydropower in Kariba and Hwange. Last year during the drought, they gave 25,000 tons of rice to distribute and support. They're building various roads now in Cyclone Idea. They have allocated $58 million for the recovery program, including they have agreed to invest in building 500 boreholes to respond to the drought. Similarly, like US, is one of a major supporter of Zimbabwe. They allocated 45 million the other day in response to this appeal, including UK 60 million, European Union 11 million, and etc. So these nations have been generous and contributing in various ways as they can, based on their advantage, etc. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Enormous opportunities. For people to visit any country, what do they look for? First is peace. Zimbabwe is one of the most peaceful countries. Number two is what they look for is the beauty, the nature, the wildlife, the geography, etc. Zimbabwe is a treasure on that. Victoria Falls, games across the country, mountains, waterfalls. Frankly, it's very much under-tapped. And of course, some of the challenges in the past has been it was a little bit one of the expensive destination because of the currency element and etc. So you get only high-end tourists. But the potential on tourism is enormous in Zimbabwe, and I think it could be tapped. It has beautiful weather. When people have a hot climate in other place, you get a nice sunshine. Golf resorts, beautiful hotels, etc. And going forward, maybe more investment can come in the tourism sector in terms of hotel. It can create huge amount of jobs and bring a good foreign exchange. Well, I would say my handover to my colleagues would be continue to build trust in your work, continue to build your relationship, and see what are the challenges or the priority going forward. That's a key to partnership. You may bring the best of many things, but if you don't build trust, you can't engage in partnership. So therefore, building trust is a fundamental part of it, and be empathetic and to the people and see how you can best add values, etc. And this is my 9th country I've worked in, and that's been always my focus. How can I add value to help that country where I'm working, whichever, as a junior officer to a head of an agency to a resident coordinator. I think that is the focus on. And the issue of sanction, my comment would be is this is a bilateral element between a specific country and Zimbabwe. The only way to resolve the difference between these countries is by talking. Even on countries, if you dissect the element of a sanction of restrictive policies, I think look at it here. Some of the countries which have restrictive policy are the largest supporter of Zimbabwe from a humanitarian or development point of view. So they care Zimbabwe. They look at it, and I think yes, the perception of sanction can mislead certain interest in terms of potential, but I have seen here strong interest coming in to invest from some of these countries, and not necessarily these restriction limits investment from these countries itself. But I think the major challenge in my perception has been is wrong policies, and also and lack of engagement globally, and efforts which has unfortunately put Zimbabwe backward. But I like the initiative of His Excellency the President. Remember early on he said, we will not be deterred of the past. We're going to move forward the country. We're going to engage with everybody, and we are going to work towards resolving the differences among countries which have a restricted policy, etc. And I really commend that that is steps, and the engagement taking place at the senior leadership level is commendable, and also engagement with the financial institutions to move forward, to bring more investors and credibility. The agreement with IMF, SMP are very positive steps. So thank you very much indeed for this opportunity, and thank you for your interest, and thank you for your support. Very grateful, and I will be following Zimbabwe very closely. I want to see prosperity, progress, and a very democratic, peaceful, and very progressive Zimbabwe. And I want to wish you all the best, and thank you very much for a great cooperation, friendship, and partnership. Thank you.